Greetings, listeners. It is a new night, it is a new week, and it's time to get spoopy and spooky. My name is KaVonna, and welcome to a very special Halloween season of the Introvert Social Hour. Welcome! It is another special Halloween episode of the Introvert Social Hour for the month of October. Woo woo! Today we are delving into the eerie world of urban legends and mysteries. So prepare yourself for chilling tales, maybe like to find a little bit of truth to unexplained phenomena, and, maybe a little bit of spookiness instead of spoopy today. Joining me, as you already know, in all 4 of the Halloween episodes this month are 2 of my close friends, Sabrina and Nicole. Wanting to let you know, reminder, there are 4 of them. This is the 3rd episode. If you have not watched the first 2, go back and then come back to listen to this episode. But we are about to start. Welcome, Sabrina and Nicole. Woo-hoo.
Hello, hello.
Hi.
Hello. I am very intrigued on what kind of like stories y'all have, urban legends you're aware of, different like unexplained phenomena that have caught your eye. I even like pulled some things of like ghost towns and abandoned places and those kind of things. So I'm very intrigued because for this topic you can have like a wide range.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Out of curiosity, did anyone pull any alien stories? Did that pop up at all?
No.
Okay. I did a little bit of looking just because I was trying to remember what they renamed UFOs to because they like changed it, so instead of unidentified flying objects they call them UAPs now, and it's
this is like a very background like memory that's coming up because I do recall reading about this at some point.
Yes, they also mentioned it in Nope, so you may have heard it there. Unidentified aerial phenomena.
Yeah, it's probably Nope.
Yeah.
Probably Nope. Okay, cool. I do want to like discuss the concept of like, urban legends and how, it looks different in various cultures as well. Out of curiosity, like what are some urban legends that you've heard of, and like where did those backstories come from for you?
I mean, I live a very skeptical life most of the time, but when I was preparing for this, I was kind of surprised in some of my research. A lot of the I really fell into a research rabbit hole about cryptids and things like that, and I was so surprised how many different areas. I kept my research mostly to the U.S., but even within the U.S., there's like every little thing. Like if there's a lake, there's a Loch Ness monster for it, or some sort of like large, creature that supposedly lived there. There's even one that I found that is like local-ish to me. It's in the Los Angeles area, and I was so surprised. It's for a lake that is now dried up, but still.
Wow.
What about you, Sabrina? Or sorry, Nicole. I didn't know your friend.
Well, it was so fascinating to me how much it becomes a part of like local identity, like the way that different towns kind of band together over these cryptids. A lot of the times, like the town where Mothman originated, Point Pleasant, like their whole identity is around Mothman these days.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah. What about you, Sabrina?
So my first, I want to say exposure to like urban legends happened around like the same time, and I have 2 very like different ones. I grew up on Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo was my favorite, so I always revert back to that Loch Ness monster episode, and that's when I like found out about the Loch Ness monster, and I thought she was so cool. And like the Phineas and Ferb episode about Nessie as well, and just like all of that. Obviously go back to our last episode to the line, you nickname my daughter after the Loch Ness monster. She just pops up everywhere. Yeah. She pops up everywhere. But I grew up in a small town by the Mexico border. So like most of my urban legends were tied to a lot of the like Hispanic legends that we have. Like I'm super fascinated by the chupacabra. I love the chupacabra. I like did a little bit of research into it and prepped for this, and I'm supposedly the first recorded instance of it that I could find in multiple sites is only 1995. It's like super new. I mean, you probably saw this too because that's a cryptid. But like I thought it was something older, but chupacabras are only like 4 years older than me. So I thought it was like a legend. I was like, what do you mean it's only from 1995?
Yeah.
So most of my urban legends are a lot more tied to, there's not very many, but they're mostly tied to like more Latin American ones because of that growing up right by the border experience.
Yeah. Okay. I am curious. The answer probably is no, but I am curious to see, do you know anyone, or have you personally ever like encountered any of these like urban legend um you know moments, for lack of a better word?
I have not, but again, I grew up hearing like a lot of people, I know a lot of people who have either had an encounter where they say like they have seen La Llorona, or they know people who have seen La Llorona, which is like a huge, huge one. So she's someone who's like all over the valley because we have canals everywhere. And so she shows up near bodies of water. And it's creepy. I believe I'm not as skeptical as Nicole. Once again, we are on polar opposite ends.
Yeah.
Do I believe that
balance.
Nessie might? Yeah, I was like, do I believe that Nessie might be real? Absolutely, absolutely. How would we know? Do I believe in the existence of La Llorona? I'm not going to say no because I'm scared. So, but I know a lot of people who have seen her, or who have like heard her.
I'm gonna come back to that because I am very intrigued with stories that I knew when I was younger as well. But what about you, Nicole? Do you know anybody who was like, I saw something?
There was someone I knew in college, my HA partner, my first year. They had a story of an encounter they had with a creature in their backyard. And even though I've never been a believer, like hearing the story is so fascinating because I was like, this is somebody who, I mean, I do believe that when people have personal experiences, they're not making that up. So like, that is definitely something that challenges my skepticism, but it's simply because like I have no experience like that where I've seen something I haven't been able to explain. But certainly hearing other people recount stories of it is fascinating to me because it's like, wow, like I don't have an explanation for that. I would not be able to come up with anything if I was seeing that with my two eyes. And that's always fascinating to me as well. As like, maybe I'm skeptic because of a lack of life experience rather than like knowing some truth. Like there's some skeptical people who are like people who believe are silly, but I don't think that way.
I like that thought process. Just like, I don't, you do, vibes.
Same with ghosts. Like I fully believe people who are sensitive to those sort of things, but I've never had an encounter like that.
Oh, cool. So I do want to move into us talking about things that we have that we want to share, because there's probably people out there who have never heard of La Llorona, and people who probably never even heard of like Mothman. I know, Nicole, you mentioned Mothman. For me, I have some that are probably a little bit more common. I'll start us off. I have a few different ones and random ones because some of them are short. But I do want to start off with the one that I feel like everybody knows. She has spread across the world, literally from beginning of elementary school, and that's Bloody Mary.
Oh my God, yes.
I remember literally elementary school was the first time hearing about her. That there's so many ways that people say that she comes up, and I've had people say they've experienced her, and I even had an adult. I remember when I was at an after school program, she told us her experience with her and her sister, I think, and I was like, I don't know if she was just trying to scare us as kids during Halloween season or if it was actually something that happened. But for those who don't know, she's a pretty famous urban legend. The idea is like you go into a room in front of a mirror and then you say her name 3 times and then she appears. But then there's theories of that and where this person arrived from. Some people think it came from the Queen Mary and like her past and the things that she dealt with during her reign and stuff. But definitely terrified always as a kid. Me looking in the mirror at school. I remember I was at a summer program once and they were like, they closed down the bathrooms. This school is haunted. They closed down the bathrooms over there because they were like, because someone had did Bloody Mary. And now no one wants to go over there. And they actually did end up closing that school down.
Oh my god.
Too
Yeah,
haunted.
I know, right? So I thought that was pretty interesting. Because yeah, that school no longer, like, I mean, it's there as a building, but no kids go there anymore. But I remember that was a thing. They were like, don't go over there, like it's haunted, like that area is haunted. That's what they said. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna stay over here on the playground. You know? But definitely it was a huge elementary school thing. Still kind of scary a bit in middle school, but as I got older, it's just like, yeah, you know. Personally for me, because I, like, as I said in like the previous episode as well, I kind of stem in that in between of like, I don't think it's impossible, so I'm gonna just stay away, you know. So I'm not playing around with that stuff. Some people did, and you know, some people didn't. But that is one where one of the ones where it wasn't just like that you never know when they come up, but like they're the reason they came up, you know. Kind of along the lines of like Candyman and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's like a little mini one, Bloody Mary, for the people who haven't heard about her.
Mm-hmm.
I have some other really good ones later. I'm saving the best for last though.
Oh, okay. I forgot about her. I forgot about that. I actually read a book when I was little. That was my first encounter with Bloody Mary.
A
It's
book?
Mary. Yeah, so it's Mary Bloody Mary. It's like a little like an introduction to like the queens and stuff like that. I actually found it like going back right now. Where it's all from her point of view. So it's all when she's little. It tracks her whole history and it focuses on like that relationship her father had with Anne Boleyn and how he like divorced her mother, started everything. So it follows her as she grows up. And that's what I knew. And then it took a long time for me to make the connection that that was potentially the Mary that like Bloody Mary, like myth and legend came from.
Yeah. Interesting.
Girl
Yeah.
killed a lot of people. Had a lot of people killed.
Yeah, had a lot of people killed. Yeah. It's amazing though, because no matter like who I meet and end up talking to, like that story has spread. Like it's not a culture specific one and it's not a regional specific one. Like yeah. So I get impressed by that because that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about
iconic.
y'all?
And just still thinking of Bloody Mary, like the idea of invoking a like entity's name to summon it. That's not super rare, but that is definitely like most familiar to us in Bloody Mary. But you mentioned Candyman or even something like Beetlejuice.
Oh yeah.
Beetlejuice.
You know, yeah.
Who's Candyman?
So go ahead. You probably know a little bit more than me, Nicole, because I didn't watch the movie.
Yeah, maybe a little bit more. I know of the horror movie only. I don't know if it has an origin before that, but
it does.
Okay, then you go ahead then.
Wait, no, but you know more. Like actually though, I know.
I simply know that the movie exists and there's a recent remake that is supposedly very good, but I haven't seen either yet. So you say Candyman 5 times in the mirror and you summon him? Yeah.
It's like you say his name.
And in the films, the origins for Candyman are closely related to like racism and like attacks on Black people, and so Candyman becomes this like I guess the spirit of revenge that kind of comes back and it takes on different meaning in the two different movies, but I think that they both, from what I know of them, they're both regarded as like utilizing the story very well. So
yeah, I definitely know it's something like intertwined a bit with Black culture, but I don't know that one. Like, you know, the reason I heard scary stories was because other children were telling me, like my mom wasn't out here telling me scary stories, so like it just never like spread down. I don't think my family's like much into like all of that anyways. So yeah, I don't know. But I just knew that it was also in one where it was like you got to say the name and he pops up. The movie, it's one of those things where I want to support Black horror, but I just know that one is way scarier than anything Jordan Peele has made, because there's different types of horror. That's jump scare horror. I know that for a fact by the trailer. It's not for me. I was tempted. I almost watched it because it's on Prime or something. I was like,
I'll have to watch it then. Now's my time.
Yeah, it's available somewhere because I know I saw
The
it.
original or the remake?
The remake.
Oh
Ah.
yeah.
I will gladly watch the remake. I've heard great things about it.
Yeah, because people said it was good. That's why I was like, I don't know. That'd be the risk I'd take, like with Haunted
Watch
Hill
it
House.
and let me know.
Not you.
That doesn't strike me as a Sabrina movie.
Yeah.
No. You said it's a jump scare and it looks really scary. I was like, oh, this is probably a movie where I close my eyes in the theater and my sister tells me when I can look again.
Probably. Yeah. No, I don't know. It's a big I don't know if I'll watch it, but we'll see for sure. What about y'all? What are some okay, actually I want to point to Sabrina first. La Llorona. So
La Llorona.
I have heard a lot in my youngin age about her. Just growing up where I grew up in the Bay Area. What is your story from her? Because I do want to know if it, because you know how like legends kind of end up having a little slight different details.
So I actually wanted to talk about that. But like my first encounter with her, never seen her, thank God. Never seen her. I am not like that. But my first encounter with the story was literally in kindergarten, because I also was one where all the scary stories I heard came from friends or came from kids on the playground. We were not telling those stories in my home. We were not opening the door to anything in my house. So it was in kinder, and basically like it was a very small version. The whole principle is that she is a spirit, vengeful in some stories, grieving in other stories, but a spirit who will come to you if you are crying and if you are a child. She is looking for her children. Ay, mis niños is what she's crying all the time. So in kinder, all I was told by this kid was that his older brothers were telling him, like, you have to be careful. You can't like cry too much. You can't like do all of this because La Llorona is going to come and get you. And that she lost her kids, they drowned. And so she's searching and searching and searching so she can find kids, and she takes them thinking that they're hers. And obviously her kids drowned, so these kids drown.
Yeah.
In kinder. Woohoo.
Same girl. I think also elementary school at some point for me too.
Yeah. So like that was my first introduction to her. And then she just pops up all the time. And like you'll like hear, like I would hear her name a lot. I'd hear like different versions of the story a lot. And then it wasn't until literally this last year where I actually sat down and like found different versions of the story. And I found one that I really liked. And I taught it. I had my kids read it in class. But like it's interesting because so many little details in the story change depending on what area you are from. Like northern Mexico will have a different story. Like Guatemala will have a different story. Middle of Mexico will have a different story. From my research, it looks like it is a universal like Latino story, but it does seem very centered in Mexico, or at least from my experience, again, growing up right by that border. So she's this beautiful woman who's also kind of vain, and she marries a beautiful, beautiful man, and he doesn't love her. He kind of just wanted her because she was beautiful, these things. And they have kids. And so in some versions of the story, her kids do accidentally drown, and she does love them, and she's grieving, and she turns into this spirit because she kills herself in her grief. And she's constantly just searching for her kids, searching for her kids, searching for her kids. In other versions of the story, she becomes jealous of her children because her husband loves them more. And she, in a moment of like anger and of jealousy, shoves them into the river, and they die and they drown. And then she kills herself. In some versions, her death is accidental. In the version I taught to my kids, she chases them. So she's yelling, "Ay, mis niños." So she's chasing them, realizing, what have I done? Because in that story, she does push them into the water. And she trips and falls on a rock and then hits her head on another one, and then instantaneous death. And then people in the village just see her all the time, and they hear it. And the wind brings in the yelling of her, "Ay, mis niños," of the like crying and the like all of that. And then in some stories, her ghost is different too. In some of them, she is vengeful. She is mean. She is this like evil spirit that is hunting people down or hunting these kids down. In some of them, it's a version. It is that warning for kids: don't go out late at night, or La Llorona will get you. Don't go out late. Don't be crying because she's going to confuse you for her kids. La Llorona, crier. That's like a loose, rough translation. So if you cry, she's going to go get you. But the image has also become like this woman with long black hair with that white nightgown because her kids did die at night. I think universally the legend always has them dying at night, or at least her being in her nightgown when she dies. That she will come close to villages, or she'll leave. The one where she is looking for her kids, she'll come into kids' rooms because she'll hear you and she'll follow your crying and
I didn't
find
know
you.
about that one. Okay.
That's the one that I heard. That's the one that I heard in kinder. That's the one that they told me in kinder. They were like, don't leave your windows open.
Well,
don't cry.
That's why I
anything
thought.
Like that. And then she pops up around water. A lot of people have a lot of sightings of her around water because that is the crux of her story. Her story is centered, like, anytime she dies next to the water. Anytime her kids die, it is drowning. Like, I think that's one of the few universal facts is her kids always drown, whether by accident or because she threw them in there and drowned them herself. Doesn't matter, they always drown. And she's always seen around water. So, like, again, I live in an ag town, but we're in the middle of a desert, so we have a ton of canals, so much water. So there is one particular road on the way from where I live to Calexico, which is that border, like, right next to Mexico, little city, where people will see her all the time. My sister's seen her on that road. And it's also because, like, we have all of the rivers that connect as well. But people who see her next to water. And it's like any body of water. But she'll appear either on the road or behind you or next to you. She has appeared in people's cars before. And I think that that's how Cassandra saw her, is you'll see her in, like, the rear view and it looks like she's sitting in the car with you. And from the people I have heard tell the story, it's terrifying because she is actually like that kind of drowned, like, raggedy, like, long black hair, nightgown, like, classic horror movie ghost. That is her. Very I'll say the name now because it's not nighttime. Very bent neck lady status from Haunting of Hill House. Very similar. But I think she's fascinating. I think she's super fascinating. Thank God I've never seen her, because I think I would cry. But that's where it comes from, and it changes. Each town changes, like, how it happens or whatever. But the one thing that always stays the same is she's looking for her kids. You'll hear her crying, and then her kids drown.
Okay,
so it's always a sad tale.
Yeah, I'm glad to know that aligns with what I have heard. Along those same lines, I think for me it was just two, where I've heard the one where she drowned them and the one where they accidentally drowned and she was looking for them. Always by water. I was always, so because that's why I was like, oh, I have a question, because I was always like, she couldn't come in, but that's why I was like, make sure your windows and doors are closed. But that's what I'm saying, like, how things are changing and stuff. I definitely see different other, like, stories and legends get tied into her story. For sure. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in the scary stories episode. Because also connected to elementary school, something similar connected to that. But yeah, she terrified me, because also someone told me in elementary school, I was like, what the heck? I was scared. Not often where I needed to be at school at night. But I was in an after school program, and there was a point sometimes the after school program where it would get dark, earlier, and I didn't like being at school at night. And we had like an Opus campus, and we had a park nearby and stuff. I didn't like it. And it was that reason right there. For sure.
She's gonna be there.
Right. What about you, Nicole?
I mean, what struck me in that story is how I could kind of connect it to other different, like, ghost depictions. Like, there's the much used image you see in, like, Japanese ghost stories of the girl in the white burial dress with the long black hair. That was very similar, and the wailing, the crying, reminding me of, like, banshee stories from Irish and Scottish folk tales. So it's really interesting how so many of these stories share similarities, but they come from such varied origins. And the role of, like, it being like a boogeyman story for kids, like, make sure you close your windows at night, like always having that kind of nugget of actual good like safety protocol sometimes.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know if you should tell kids you can't cry, like that might cause other issues, but like
Mhm.
how those sort of spooky stories function in like, cautionary tales for kids.
Mhm.
Yeah. Don't go out late at night. Like come home before the sun sets.
Stay
Those
away
kinds
from
of
the
things.
water.
Yeah,
Like that's
don't be hanging out by rivers at night. You don't know what's gonna
yeah.
happen there.
Mhm.
I could definitely like all of those things are that's why I wonder like her origin, like who was the first person who was like,
Mhm.
but yeah.
It was an oral story for a very long time before like it's super difficult to find any written version of this story. You have
Yeah.
to like really look for stuff. So like there's lots of
Mm.
books about the legend, tracking it, how it developed, but like the actual legend itself is difficult to find in anything that isn't um like a scholarly form of writing,
Mhm.
because it's just this oral story, which is also probably why it has so many different versions.
Yeah, because
Literally.
you would always adapt it to like whatever is prescient to the moment, so it's gonna
Mhm.
change.
Yeah. Also just like the worst case scenario for telephone.
Yeah, yeah, but the oral tradition and oral histories like that are so fascinating because they're a lot of the times they're meant to be these like living documents, and writing them down. For some groups where they keep like an oral history, they're
Mhm.
like, we don't want to write down our history because it doesn't follow with our tradition of like we pass it
Mhm.
down.
Yeah. Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it does kind of like cement it in place, whereas like a living story can keep evolving.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, Nicole. What urban legend did you bring us?
Oh, I was really fascinated to learn kind of the question, like the supposed origin of the Jersey Devil, which is one of the cryptids that I ended up looking up,
Ooh,
or the
okay.
also called the Leeds Devil. And
Mm.
one of the reasons that it's called the Leeds Devil is because one of the believed origins of the Jersey Devil is that it was actually a human child at one point. This woman named Jane Leeds, who is also called Mother Leeds, she had
Okay.
12 children, and upon finding out she was pregnant with her 13th child, she said, "Oh, this child's going to be the devil." And in 1735, she went into labor on one stormy night while her friends gathered around her.
Mhm.
And her 13th child was born a normal child, but he changed into a creature with hooves, a goat's head, bat wings, and a forked tail, started growling and screaming, and flew up the chimney and disappeared. And that's one of the purported origins for the Jersey Devil, which is a cryptid that's the description of it. It's like a bipedal kangaroo like thing. It's actually it shows some description that it is similar to some early descriptions that I've heard of the chupacabra before. It's like a
Mm.
more of a dog-like figure. It
Mhm.
was described as like kangaroo-like and scaly and devilish. So
Yeah.
add it to the list of weird little guys with weird backstories.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is it Jersey because it's New Jersey? Like, is that where Jersey?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
I just wanted to double check. I was like, I'm pretty sure, but okay. And it's only been seen in New Jersey. Like people only mention
It's
its sites.
it's like that's where it kind of lives as far as the story of it, but I'm gonna have to pull it back up, but I believe there were, because always with cryptids like that, once the story is popularized,
Mhm.
sightings pop up in other places, because
Yeah.
that's what people's mind goes to, of like, what is that weird little thing? Sometimes they'll be
Oh,
like,
it
oh,
must be this.
mhm.
Mhm.
Got it.
What does
Okay.
it do? Like it's
Terrorizes
already
things.
okay.
It's
That tracks.
it is kind of in like I said, the chupacabra is kind of similar to it because it, I believe, is blamed for like attacking farm animals. Hold on, let me see if I can.
Oh.
Rude.
Or maybe I'm just it associate blamed for livestock killings, and
Mhm.
that's pretty common for cryptids. Is like you'll see a rash of like sheep or cows being killed, and in often with weird details to it that make people think this isn't just a wolf or a coyote or you know, a normal animal, which is another thing with the chupacabra. Is it they're like, we're seeing 2 needle-like punctures in the neck. That's not like a wolf's MO for attacking.
Yeah.
So even it's kind of what keeps people from just saying like, oh, it's just a dog with mange. Like that's the most common like explanation for chupacabras, and many other things is that it's just like a diseased real animal. But then you see these like attack patterns that are inconsistent with what you might think of for you know, a wolf or something that is known to us.
Got it. So just in case, because I don't think I missed it, but for chupacabra, it does kind of look like an animal. Does it have like what features does it have that make it stand out?
That one's also like it's evolved from time to time. So like Nicole was saying, it did start out looking a lot more like what
The
they've
Jersey
described as like
thing.
the Jersey Devil, where it's like scaly, things like that. Like a kangaroo standing on 2 feet, but like I'm much more familiar with the like on all fours, kind of like a contorted, twisted version of like an animal. That's another thing for me. The chupacabra has always been kind of just like this thing that like can suck blood, like the chupa sangre, like all of that stuff. And so I've like never had a definitive version of what it looks like in my brain, because it just kind of is evolving. It's like different parts of animals and things like that. Like that's like the stories that I've heard growing up.
Yeah.
But it is the same thing. It just eats all like the livestock. It doesn't actually like terrorize people, which is probably why I like it so much. If I'm being honest.
Yeah.
He's just trying to live his life, leave him alone.
Right. Yeah. Maybe that's his food source.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've always heard it. And I just never 100% like knew everything about it.
Yeah.
I had never heard the Jersey Devil though. That one's new.
Yeah. So creepy.
That story is unsettling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, I was kind of the opposite of what you were saying, Sabrina, where you were surprised at the lateness of the story of the chupacabra. A lot of the origins for some of these creatures are like quite old. Like I said, the Jersey Devil 1735 is the supposed origin of that one. You have if you want to hear about 2 more from California that I was like, yes, these are awesome.
I'll take them. Yes, I'm very intrigued.
These ones are not scary attacking. They're more like creepy. So one of them is the Dark Watchers, which are tall, shadowy figures that are seen specifically in California's Santa Lucia Mountains. And they have been cited for many, many years. But the one that fascinates me as a literary person is their reference briefly in John Steinbeck's 1938 short story, Flight. Yeah, but they've been cited since before then. And the main character of that, it's not even really super related to the story. The main character has committed a murder and he's being hunted down and fleeing. But I have the quote here. Pepe looked suspiciously back every minute or so, and his eyes sought the tops of the ridges ahead. Once, on a white barren spur, he saw a black figure for a moment, but he looked away quickly, for it was one of the Dark Watchers. No one knew who the Watchers were, nor where they lived, but it was better to ignore them and never show interest in them. They did not bother one who stayed on the trail and minded his own business. So it's like this ominous, like, just don't bother them, which, it seems to be the way to get by with a lot of these creepy creatures.
Yeah. Leave them be.
They're described as like tall, shadowy figures with cloaks and walking sticks. And there have been people who talk about that it's likely to be a kind of a trick of the eye thing because of the height of the mountain and the way the sun hits it and the timing that a lot of these beings have been sighted. There's a visual phenomenon that if you see your own shadow cast on, like, if you're high up on a mountain, you see your shadow cast on like the clouds below you, it looks like a big old creepy person because it has this like ring of rainbow light around it, so it looks supernatural. But considering that these beings have been sighted for a very long time was very interesting to me. And even though they have an explanation for it, I'm like, I don't know, specifically in this area.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so Dark Watchers. Never heard that one. I definitely would not be vibing with shadows and mountains.
Yeah.
It's a no for me.
Just like, I'm just gonna keep going. I am not looking.
Yeah.
Listen, this is why I don't vibe with the outdoors.
Yeah, just stay inside.
I like the outdoors, but once it's nighttime, I like camping, but I want to do it with a group of people. And then when it's all time, for us, I know that sounds like a horror movie waiting to start.
I actually, there's specifically a story I considered sharing but I couldn't find a version of it that I was happy with. So I won't, but maybe another time, that had to do with a group of people out camping.
I've done it successfully though.
Yeah, it happens.
So do all of the people in horror movies. They're like, camping's so fun until it's not.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I enjoy it safely. When it's nighttime though, I go inside my tent.
Yes.
Yeah. What was the other one you had, Nicole?
The other one is this one is the one that's kind of local to me. Apparently, I think I'll explain a little bit more about that. This one is called the Monster of Lake Elizabeth, and this is one of those Nessie-like kind of creatures. And this has a long origin story too. So in 1780, a Spanish explorer, I'm not going to pronounce this right, probably, Junipero Serra.
Serra.
Yes.
He founded the missions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, he named what is now called Lake Elizabeth La Laguna de Diablo, the Devil's Lake, because the people who lived in that area believed that it was built by the devil himself to house his pet, which is the monster of Lake Elizabeth. Because she's said to resemble a dragon with bat-like wings, a long neck, 6 legs, and a short face. And like this, again, anywhere there's a body of water, humans are going to be like, there's a big creature that lives in it. And the other thing that I was fascinated by is that there's a couple of different lakes in California that are called Elizabeth Lake, and different sources that I was reading would attribute the monster of Lake Elizabeth to one up by San Francisco or one in Los Angeles. There were like these two that kept being noted, but at least for the one in Los Angeles, it's been dry since 2013. So homegirl doesn't live there anymore. Yeah. Some people say that she moved to somewhere in Nevada because there was a sighting of her in Nevada later. So maybe she flew.
Traveling girly.
Yeah. But yeah, a really old origin for that one. And people even said that Lake Elizabeth, if you swam deep enough, you could get to hell through it. And it's like, I think maybe because it was right on the San Andreas Fault, so either it was really deep or it was earthquake country. So they were like, the devil's been in here.
Interesting.
So, 2 fascinating local California cryptids.
I did not expect you to bring up Junipero Serra in this. Like, I was not expecting a little connection to the missions. That's so funny.
Yeah.
So we have legends, right? We talked about some legends. I am curious though. I'll tell mine first, but like if you've seen or ever like been caught by like unexplained phenomena that has happened in the world, whether it is like, a weird light in the sky or this happened, but it shouldn't have happened according to like scientific backed facts is what I was supposed to say there. So I do want to talk about some that I found. This is a super random one, and so it's a video. This woman, I cannot remember the location. I can drop the video. she accidentally in the flood, there was an intense amount of flooding that day in the town, and she accidentally drove her car into a flooded area, and her car was drowning while she was in it. Windows fully up, car fully closed, and so everybody was running in to try to help her and try to get her try to get her out of the car. They're working on it. At this point, her car is underneath, other than like a little part, the corner up, and somehow she swims up, and they're like, oh, okay, they're good. They get her to, the ambulance, everything. And then later on, people look at the video and they're like, and they get the car out of there, and they're like, the windows are fine. The door is fine. She got out. How did she get out of the car? And at that point, they didn't know who the woman was. She was fine again. So that was like a really random, like, how did that happen? Because no, they were like, well, maybe because she rolled the window down and then like rolled it back up. But then people are like, well, she's not gonna roll the window back up.
Yeah, from the outside.
Right. Like she's trying to get out of the car. Like, because I'm thinking of the old ones, the
Oh yeah.
The cranking ones.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
crank. Some people are like, could she have opened the door, but the door wasn't open, and so that was just like an interesting unexplained phenomena.
And especially because when your car gets submerged in water and there's air inside and water outside, the pressure differential, I guess if it's somewhat shallow flooding, it may not be as bad, but it's incredibly difficult to just open the door because of the difference in pressure.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why people are like, we don't know how she got out.
Was there any water in the car? That's an interesting question.
Yeah, I don't know. But that was like one really random one that I found that I was interested in. And also in the same video, it was on the History Channel, birds forming the shape of a bird.
Oh, I love that. Murmurations.
That's cool.
Murmurations. And people are still trying to figure that out, of what is this like? How do birds create images together? Is there some kind of like mind link? Do they have like a shared consciousness to like know what to do? Like they literally made a shape of a bird as like a form of birds. And it was like, I watched the video and the guy was like, that's a bird. It's like, yeah, that is a bird. Like, how did they do that? Like consciously together. So I always think those are weird. But yeah, I found that out. Murmurations are a thing.
Yeah. I mean, the skeptic in me wants to say that they happened upon that shape because it is, I mean, the shape of a bird is evolved over a certain, generations to be good for flying. So maybe they found that making that shape was aerodynamic, or it's in us as viewers where we're like, hey, that's a bird, and they weren't like trying to make a bird, but they happen to, and we can recognize it.
Yeah.
But murmurations by themselves are already fascinating. Like the way that they come together is already in that kind of like edge of supernatural in the natural world, because it's just so beautiful and amazing.
Yeah, it's so interesting. But what do y'all have any like weird, like unexplained phenomena that you've come across out of curiosity? Like I know a lot of people end up seeing like lights in the sky. That's a big one, I feel like, a lot of the time.
No.
I don't personally have one, but I'm trying to find the word for it, but
which is good that you don't personally have any. Yeah. So then I'll drop an intense one, then the one that I've been waiting to. I was deciding whether I wanted to drop this one now or in the next episode, but I was like, I think this one is more along the line of like mysteries and things being figured out. Have y'all heard of Lake Lanier?
No.
Another lake mentioned in this episode, right?
Humans and lakes, man.
Right.
I'm scared of water.
Oh yes, I think I have heard of this, but I don't know the full story. I am excited to hear you talk about it.
Okay, let me give you some backstory. Okay, so Lake Lanier is in Georgia, specifically Forsyth County. I'll just give you, before I give you the history. So as of right now, in Lake Lanier, there have been about 700 deaths since the mid 1950s. Many of which that are strange, unexplained, and unsolved. And there's a huge reason why. So I'll tell you about that. But I will say about 200 of those deaths have occurred since 1994, and at least 27 of those people have never been found. But still, people go to the lake. Ooh,
Why?
summertime, have fun, party it up. But here's why. It is a man-built lake, specifically a U.S. government-built lake. They created this lake, and there used to be a town, and they put it on top of the town. Now they did move these families out. They purposefully bought them out. And a lot of them were predominantly like Black families. They bought out these families and moved them out of this town to create this lake. But mind you, that because it was a town, there were also 20 cemeteries there. So the 20, yes. So the U.S. government, accumulated all this land, displaced about 250 families and 15 businesses, and they were supposed to relocate these 20 cemeteries and properly clear this town. Instead, they decided to slowly fill in the water over everything in the town. There are still houses there, street signs, assuming that there were street signs at that time. I think so. All of the things they just left there. So they poured water and made a man-built lake over town. It's very much still there. And I say they were supposed to relocate because I can't remember the exact date. But it was found that some divers had went down there, and they did notice that, yep, there's still houses. Yep, there's still this. Yep, there's still that. Oh, and plot twist, there's some graves right there. There's some headstones. So they didn't relocate those graves. Those graves are still right there. So that's what makes it so dangerous. There's so much debris, right? They just poured things over this town. They didn't clear out things. It's supposed to be this community lake. They didn't make it safe. So a lot of the theories are people get caught in these unsafe debris because they just randomly poured it. You can be at a part of the lake where you're 5 feet away from the ground, and then there could be a random 30-foot drop, because it's inconsistent ground, and there's a whole city underneath. There's also been like really random boat accidents. Sometimes there's been like instances of random fires of the boats on the lake. As you know, there's been a lot of drownings specifically with that. It is pretty wild though that they did not relocate those graves, and they were just like, we're just gonna pour everything on top. It was shown in, oh yeah, there it is, Discovery Channel show Expedition X proved that there were 20 cemeteries still there with headstones and graves still at the bottom of the lake that were never removed. It's pretty intense because when you think about it, we think it's one, Georgia, huge Black community in like Georgia itself, and then when you think back to we know that there was a Black community specifically there. So people say, no, we're not messing with ancestors. Do not go to Lake Lanier. They are angry. They do not want you in that lake. They are drowning people. There have been some instances where people say that they felt someone grab them, or they felt something pull, and it's been just like really scary instances. I'll give you a specific story though that's kind of creepy. 1958, a woman by the name of Delia Mae Parker Young and her friend Susie Roberts, they were actually driving across the lake because there's a bridge, and Susie lost control of the car and ran off the bridge, but the woman and the car disappeared at the bottom of the lake, as it would, because it's a huge lake and a whole city underneath. It's going to be hard to find it. So it took 31 years before Susie was found and her car. And then a fisherman found the remains of a body a year later that they think was Delia, but that body was missing both hands and 2 toes. They couldn't necessarily identify. So they do say though that Susie had been wearing a blue dress that night of the accident, and since the crash, people have actually reported seeing a lost woman in blue dress pacing around the area, and she's missing her hands.
Ugh.
Yeah, but yeah, for me, I learned about Lake Lanier last year. because there were some drownings that happened last year. And I was like, why are people still going?
Yeah.
And this what's really sad too is they're also children. Why are you taking your kids there?
No.
Yeah.
Come on.
Mm-mm.
But that was my
No.
like big story. I get
That's 20 cemeteries of angry souls. Well, not.
Don't mess with it. Number one rule.
No, this is real. No.
Yeah, but I'll leave it on that. But
Yeah.
I feel like it's creeping out enough. But
That was scary.
it's an interesting mystery though.
It is
An unexplained
That's
phenomena
terrible.
outside of like alien stuff. It's just like it could be things randomly, you know, that random debris and things like that. But also there's a lot of 700 deaths since that time frame of 1950s. That hasn't even been a full century.
Well, you
So
said what, 200 since what, 94?
yes, I believe 94.
That's 200 deaths in 39 years. No, 29 years. 29
I was gonna
years.
say less, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty wild. But for me, I'm just like, I personally wouldn't, if I don't have to drive over it, I wouldn't have to drive over the bridge. I would.
KaVonna, you can't swim. You're not going in that lake.
Well, no, I'm not. No, I'm just saying driving,
okay.
like crossing the bridge. Like I would find the alternate route. I'm not going in, period.
Absolutely.
I'm not.
Just
No.
don't even visit. Stay away.
I'll just stay away from Forsyth County completely. Like I'm not.
Yeah, like if I'm ever in Georgia, I'm gonna specifically ask, where is this lake, and make sure I don't go anywhere near it.
Literally, yeah. I think it's so wild. But yeah, if you blame the U.S. government if you're scared, because
I was gonna say that. I'm like, can you believe that? The laziness, and like the disrespect.
Literally, yeah. I would. Oh, I'd be so mad. Imagine me just like in my grave, chilling at peace. My family, find out my family's moving away. One, and then two, you're pouring water on me.
Yeah.
And you told the people you were supposed to move. Oh, we have beef now. I totally understand. Yeah. So I'ma stay away. You go ahead, and I'll give you as much peace as you can, because I get why you're angry.
Yeah,
I get why you're angry. I'm just leaving. But yeah, stay away from Lake Lanier, people. Rapid round of questions.
Damn it.
There's only two.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes or no? Do you believe in aliens?
Yes.
I believe life exists on other planets. I don't think we make contact or have much of a chance of having any meaningful like encounters with aliens.
Got you. So you don't think they've came and took a visit?
No.
Okay. Got it.
I think that if they had, there's absolutely no way we would know.
Okay. Fair.
Yeah, but I'm with don't make that face. I'm with Nicole. I think that it's unrealistic to think there's nothing else out there. So
yeah.
So
I agree with that. The first time I learned about the Andromeda galaxy, and I was like, there's whole life that's like 1 billion light years away. They're ahead of us. Like at that point I was like, yeah, there's other things. They could look like us or look different. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, that's why I'm kind of skeptical of us ever being able to make meaningful contact, because I think as specific and strange as this existence is, whatever life is able to like spring up and really take root in another place is going to be almost unrecognizable to us, I think.
Yes,
yeah,
I agree.
That's fair. Yeah.
You also both know I like the idea that people are aware of us, but they're kind of like, let's avoid the Milky Way. Let's avoid Earth in general.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, keep a distance. I think that's fair. So it's actually 3 questions because this is a 2-parter. What is one haunted place that if you had to go to one haunted place, you'd go to?
No.
Our college, because I've been there, done that.
Oh,
there we go.
Yes. Amazing decision. I second. I mean, okay, if it's gonna be like an actual like scary haunted place, I guess they could do the Whaley House here in San Diego.
Yes,
but during the day.
Oh
no. Okay, my sister is telling me in the background no, so I take it back. Okay, I guess Muir College is the only place.
Not the Whaley.
Oh.
Really? I went to the Whaley house at night. Fun fact.
Oh,
why would you do that?
It was fine. It
Just
was.
be respectful, and they're not going to mess with you.
Yeah, I think the only thing that was creepy was I don't like the way their kitchen is set up.
Savannah walked in and was like, "We need to redo this kitchen." Who was in charge?
Yeah, it's just creepy. Because you can.
They put their bread on the counter. They don't put it in the bread
right.
box.
I didn't like their toaster. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. It was because you can, before you even get, you have to walk down to the kitchen, and they have an open rectangle window, but it's not a real, it's like you can go through the window. It's not a real like glass window or anything like that. So like if you're cooking in the kitchen, you could turn around and somebody's looking down at you from the top. I didn't like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
fair.
That's
Wasn't a
gross.
fan. Yeah.
Just slide right in. What
Yeah.
you making?
But I think I think I was okay though, because like when you go to tours like that, they really be putting the 10 on the 2, and like, you know, they were like, "Oh, can you believe this happened?" And I was like, I'm not catching any bad vibes. I feel like I catch vibes, and I wasn't catching anything. I was like, I'm chilling.
Yeah.
Cassandra's
Nah.
lost stuff.
Really? Oh,
Oh.
Cassandra, I gotta
And
get your details later. But
Yeah.
yeah, please let me know, because I remember I went there. I was like, I don't know, but yeah, I know Cassandra has a little bit more connected.
Yeah, Cassandra's a little bit more seeing wise. I'm like you. I'm vibey, and I will feel things, but like I will feel stuff like feels like there's like.
Yeah, no,
So,
I get you.
I've been informed I cannot do the Whaley House, so we will stick with Muir College at UCSD.
Muir College was enough.
Yeah. I have a second answer though. I found out apparently the Hollywood sign is haunted, so I'd go visit that. Yeah.
Didn't someone die there? Didn't someone commit
Yes.
suicide? That's where the show Hollywood took inspiration from.
Oh,
I have not seen that show, but yes, that's
You need to
the
watch
story. I may have to, because this starlet was she got an unfavorable review and thought it was career ending, and so she ended her life. I think she jumped off of one of the letters, and so people have reported seeing a ghostly figure up there.
Yeah,
so.
she left like a little note or something, or somebody found her shoes and then found her. Like they went and they looked for her when she jumped off.
Interesting. Okay. In opposition, what is one place, if you had to for sure cross one off your list, like what is one place you know for a fact you will never even look at? For me, I can tell you right now, it's any haunted hospital. I just don't vibe.
Yeah, like asylum type places, just because even though I'm fairly skeptical, like it feels icky on a moral standpoint. Like the reason that there may be unhappy spirits there because there were people that were likely horribly abused in their life that had to be there, and so I think it would just make me too sad.
Yeah.
I'm big on hospitals and schools.
Creepy.
Especially like when you, like one of you mentioned like an abandoned, or KaVonna, you mentioned how like the school got shut down. It's just like empty now. That gives me the absolute heebie-jeebies. I don't think we'll find as many terrible things in a school as you would a hospital. But like either of those, I cannot do that. I cannot.
I agree. I 100% agree. Those are the end of the rapid fire questions. Listeners, go ahead and answer in the Q&A as well. What are you thinking? What are your like most creepy urban legends, mysteries? What are some things that you know for a fact you will never go to or even get close to? Reminder that this is 1 of 4 episodes, and this is the 3rd one, so there is one more, and Sabrina and Nicole will be with me on all of them. So thank you so much again, Sabrina and Nicole, for joining for this spookier episode for sure. Make sure y'all spread the Halloween season fun with friends and family by sharing this podcast. Follow, like, and make sure you get notified. You gotta make sure you either follow me, your heart on Spotify. My @ is KaVonna on Instagram. Go ahead and stay updated there. You can stay updated with what Sabrina and Nicole are doing. Look at the episode description for their information. Get spooky, get spoopy. Have an amazing week. I will see you next week on the Introvert Social Hour. Thanks for joining. Bye.